NBC Universal, not WEF. Check the show notes. Check the live chat. Hey, good morning, everybody. It's a Friday edition of Law and Legitimacy, and let's put an end to these rumors right now. Mike Boyer is not being tapped by Elon Musk to run Twitter, though that would be a good choice. If you've heard about Elon releasing control of Twitter, he's going to announce a new person. He's used the female pronoun she. I mean, Mike looks like a guy to me, but in these crazy days of identifying as, I could see him identifying as a woman if it got him the job. But, you know, so in the middle of the night, I wake up, I check my...
Flattered.
Yeah.
Flattered by that.
Well, don't be, because it's absolutely meaningless. I mean, you know, we live in an echo chamber of two, or those who stop by in the morning to share some time with us. So Elon Musk is saying he's going to step down, or not step down, but yield operational control of Twitter to another person. He used the female pronoun she. You know, maybe he meant it, maybe he didn't. Maybe he's got a candidate in mind, maybe he doesn't. Maybe it's a woman, maybe it's not. I'm told by many, including Mike, that the rumor is it's going to be Linda Yaccarino. And so and that's Yaccarino. She is apparently in talks to become the new Twitter CEO. I don't know much about Yaccarino, I'll be honest with you. This is a story that I'm following in real time with you as it breaks. It's me again. Sai sends us a note saying that she's NBC Universal's, she's with NBC Universal. I'd like to know more. It's me again, Sai. I've heard reports that she might have a strong affiliation with the World Economic Forum, which, if that's true, would be enough to put a veto on her suggestion as far as, or her elevation as far as I'm concerned, because the World Economic Forum represents an opportunity to bring the entire globe within the ambit of global standards. And you're thinking, well, what's wrong with that? There's one reality here on Earth, and we all share it. So ought it not to be managed for the collective good? And if you are a regular listener to this show, that term, managed for the collective good, probably makes you feel like the air is leaving the room. It certainly does me. I don't want to be managed for the collective good out of Geneva, Zurich, Davos, New York, Rome, or anywhere else. No one gets out of here alive, and the task of living is to find significance and satisfaction within your own skin and your own community. Being one of a 9 billion widgets or digits that populate an algorithm and that is kept alive for a prescribed number of years and a prescribed number of calories, occupying so much space and no more, just is not my idea of life. And it's something that I would fight, quite frankly, to the death. Mike has a story on Yaccarino up in the Times. Go back to that paragraph, Mike.
Yeah, I will. I wanted to start by saying that, you know, this is New York Times reporting, and saying that, you know, Elon Musk is in talks to hire Linda Yaccarino, the chair of global advertising and partnerships at NBC Universal, as chief executive of Twitter, to people with knowledge of the matter said. Now, I want to be very careful here, and I want to point out, because I find this to be highly unlikely. And even if it ends up being correct, I think that you've already kind of stated pretty affirmatively there, Norm, that Yaccarino is not what would, I think, give confidence to anyone who is looking for Twitter to remain sort of the free speech beacon, especially after the war that many people have been through to reemerge or reattain their active profiles on that platform. And especially considering, you know, Elon's motivation to acquire that platform and what drove that overall. I think that when the New York Times or anybody else says we have anonymous sources in 2023, it's dubious. Again, I keep using this word this week, but, you know, this is something that is generating crazy headlines, and it also draws an important contrast for someone like Elon Musk to have to argue against. If he says, you know, his tweet says that she will be starting in the next roughly 6 weeks, and that he's going to, I guess, go to the position of chief technology officer, and then used the phrase, I'll get back to this, sysops, which SYS OPS, I guess, too close to psyops for
Yeah,
me.
I know. That's exactly why I'm sitting here smirking. I mean,
But anyway, we'll get back to that. But I just wanted to say that all of this is, people are treating this as categorically true or likely to be true, and nobody's vetting the fact that nobody's willing to put their name by it. And the man that just said this says it's going to happen in about 6 weeks. And if it were that certain, why would he withhold?
well, it might be. There's a lot going on at Twitter. I woke up thinking, God, good grief. He's doing the footsie with Tucker Carlson, and they're apparently, by their own admission, and there is talks that Tucker may reemerge on Twitter. And I thought, well, there is someone who could serve as the face of free speech. And so much of what Tucker has talked about in recent weeks after his discharge from Fox has been, the dead hand of sort of global elites on the media, even Fox. I mean, Rupert is, after all, just another billionaire looking to line his pockets by manipulating your opinions one way or the other. And so if Tucker was going to emerge as a truly independent voice, and Twitter is where he was going to land, and Elon needed the ability to get out of the day-to-day operations of the place. Well, he can't make Tucker CEO because you can't do everything. Tucker can't manage a multi-billion. I mean, as Elon's departure demonstrates, SpaceX, Neuralink, this, that, and everything else, and Twitter is too much. But if the ethos of Twitter is to be free speech, if its mission is to provide a sort of populist portal into the world so that people can share their ideas regardless of what the elites think, Tucker would be a great choice. And so it could be that if he is, in fact, Elon, that is, speaking to Miss Yaccarino, he's speaking to her as part of a package with Tucker. And, I think it's a hard sell to tell Twitter people, oh, trust us, we're going to be committed to freedom, when you've got a mainstream media advertising executive taking over as CEO. I could see making her a number 3 position, maybe, a senior vice president in charge of marketing and advertising, but she'd need to take her direction from someone with a firmer hand, a firmer commitment to freedom of speech. This is a digitopic queen. Her job is to use large data and analytics to maximize a profit for those who are in a position of distributing information. Isn't that the very thing that Tucker said he was happy to be rid of at Fox?
That's right. And let's not forget, Norm, helpful context here for everyone. And we'll read, we can read out loud for the audio only listeners, some of the New York Times stuff here in a second. But I want to make sure that we all track back the story of Twitter and Musk's acquisition thereof. When he first took it over, he took over a company that was staffed with people completely hostile to his notions of free speech and free expression, right? And he overhauled the entire company, cutting...
Oh, whoa. Newsflash, Mike. I'm sorry to cut you off. It's me again, if you've seen the feed. Yaccarino is also the chairman of the World Economic Forum Task Force.
We'll get to all that. But that's why it's like we're giving credibility to this, and it seems like we're kind of chasing this pacing rabbit or this pacing dog in a dog race. And look, Elon very openly did things to test for leaks in sort of the confidential nature of what he was trying to do. Yoel Roth completely failed that test. We saw that happen. He brought journalists in particular to create the Twitter files. It just seems likely to me that if he runs a tweet like that and says that she will be, that may be it's bait for whomever is ready to just run this story, and perhaps this name being leaked by a couple people close to the situation could be exactly the reason that Elon's running this, because he still suspects that everything that he's doing is under the watchful eye of some other interest, because that's exactly what Twitter has been for however long, Norm. It has been embedded with federal agents and from various agencies. There's been this quid pro quo between federal law enforcement and Twitter with respect to surveillance and all of these other things. He was hotly criticized for, basically tanking the platform. Advertisers wanted to go other places. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, he gets someone with an executive with deep ties to the advertising industry and with extensive experience in the media sector, right? But this article, I did a command search function on this article to find the acronym WEF and the phrase World Economic Forum. It doesn't appear once in this New York Times article.
Well, that would be,
once.
I'm not going to go quite down the Elon is mastermind genius and this is a test run. I am just going to report what It's Me Again Cy sends, which is a quote. She didn't attribute the source, but Yaccarino is the chairman of the World Economic Forum's Task Force on Future of Work and sits on the World Economic Forum's Media, Entertainment, and Culture Industry Governors Steering Committee since 2019. Elon, I can't think of a worse set of credentials to set loose on Twitter. Are you out of your fucking mind? Have you been drinking your own rocket fuel? What's going on, pal?
Yeah, well, look, it's from her LinkedIn, which I think has already been revised and edited to take that off. But it was ultimately, I think it was from 2019 to present was what the term stated on her LinkedIn. It's now not there. The only thing that shows up is the NBCU, the NBC Universal Media stuff, which she's been there for, 11 and a half years. A little more than that.
Hey, hey, ho, ho. Yaccarino's got to go. Repeat it on Twitter today. Hey, hey, hell no. Yaccarino's got to go. Elon, you didn't buy Twitter just to make it into another dystopian nightmare, did you? Are you sorry you bought it? And what does Tucker have to say about this?
I don't buy it. I buy Tucker being CEO more than I buy Linda Yaccarino, even with the tweet from Elon himself using the pronoun she.
All right, well, let's demonstrate that we have a pair. What's your call? Is Yaccarino going to, and we will, when that announcement is made, we will replay this because we are nothing if not transparent fools. Yaccarino, is she in or out?
Out.
What is Tucker? Is Tucker, in your view, a candidate for CEO? I just don't see that. Yeah.
Nope. I don't think Tucker is a candidate for CEO, and I don't even think that's necessary. I do think that Elon is going to move away from the CEO role. He ran that poll however long ago that said, should I, hire a CEO and I will abide the results of this poll. And I believe that poll was actually yes. And that was obviously before the great, the quickening that occurred when it went from, legacy blue check marks to the subscription-based model. But if it didn't say when he would abide the results of that poll, it just said that he would abide the results of that poll. But because there is a historical basis for believing that Elon can set he can set a trap that can be well laid, and he can create productive information by doing that. And we've seen that happen through the acquisition. We've seen that happen through when he took it over. And I meant the acquisition in terms of the lawsuit around actually conducting the purchase. We saw a lot of stuff going on then with respect to the lack of transparency, the lack of disclosure, blah, blah, blah. Vidya Ajayi, the former chief counsel, and all the BS that she was involved in along with Yoel Roth. Then we saw the Twitter files. We saw him actually using the information that he was getting from the Twitter files to actually just purge a bunch of employees that were redundant bloat. And we're watching the platform flourish right now in real time, right? Twitter has never been more invigorating in my experience. I've been on the platform for like 10 or 11 years at this point, maybe a little even longer than that. Twitter is more alive than it's ever been. And he has ambitions of Twitter as being a communications platform that can span the globe. He just tweeted also yesterday that they've rolled out encrypted direct messages that will allow people to connect with anyone from all over the world. And it's in a beta version, but it will be available to subscribers. You'll be able to, for free, if you have Twitter, communicate with anybody across the globe completely encrypted. That's something.
But can you do so without the watchful eye of the federal government? That relates to the second issue we want to talk about today. Mike alluded to it, and that is the embedded character of federal.
Before we go, Lawyer Will says, what's the problem with the WEF? I've never tracked that controversy. Well, the World Economic Forum is sort of synonymous at this point in history with the name Klaus Schwab, who's that wizard wardrobe adorned looking weird guy with the Swedish accent and says that you will, you own nothing and be happy all
And
the
eat
time.
insects because, too many cloud farts are bad for the
Yeah,
environment.
the World Economic Forum is a bunch of unelected bureaucrats from all over the world that come together in, Switzerland, annually and decide the future of, I guess, the Western civilization, as it were, right? The EU,
They
etc.
aspire to it, but Mike, you sell it short because I think, Will, to me, what the World Economic Forum represents is sort of the last gasp of the Enlightenment. To the degree that we aspired as a species to say that we could live a good life in accord with the dictates of reason. We've created social sciences, we've created natural sciences, we've tried to organize societies on rational bureaucratic basis, all with the idea that we could have rules, norms, and transparency, and that reason could discover best practices. Recall during the pandemic, we believe in science. There's nothing wrong with being scientific. We all are in our day-to-day endeavors. Nobody randomly chooses to eat stuff and decides whether it kills them. We test what we do to ourselves by experience, and science is routinized experience, and the scientific method has brought miracles to the world. The World Economic Forum believes, and I think rationally, that if there is an external world that can be known by appropriate scholarly enterprises and application of knowledge and industrial force, then people of goodwill can gather and do what the invisible hand in Adam Smith used to do. That is, determine how to maximize the utility of the human race, keeping us alive in the presence of existential threats like climate change and pandemics and whatnot, redistributing income and resources such that there is a minimum standard of living for all, and that it can be done through global governance and the recognition of global norms. In a way, that all sounds fine and dandy. But where the rubber meets the road is when it collides with this individual sense of significance. And from my perspective as an Augustinian, it is the very sort of hubristic sin that Augustine warned about in the City of God. When we believe that we the pots can say to the potter, why makest me thus? I can redesign a better sense of self. And we now have this topic, expressive individualism as the norm that dominates the cultural discussion. What we've got is an imperative to let everybody be exactly who they want to be, and from an organizational perspective, providing everybody with a certain set of minimal resources to do that, regardless of what anybody else thinks. And so we've got a world gone mad, and from my perspective, reason is and always has been the slave of the passions. That's a line from David Hume. From my mind, the World Economic Forum is an elite that may operate with what it thinks is goodwill, but what original sin teaches us is that no one's will is so entirely good that they can be trusted with their keys on the ignition of the car 24/7. And thus, in the United States, we've designed a government that is by necessity inefficient. We've fractured power between the state and federal government and federalism. We've divided power by way of separation of powers within both state and federal governments. And we've done so because these institutions are built on the premise that there's something flawed about us. We are in need of grace. We are in need of redemption. And when we take ourselves too seriously, you end up with 1984. You end up with Brave New World. You end up with The Handmaid's Tale. You end up with Fahrenheit 451. And the protagonists in each of those novels are people that say, you know what? I would be happier in some sense. I'd be better off if I just went along to get along, but I'd be deprived of what makes life worth living. My ability to say this and no more, even if the this and no more is irrational. And so I view the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab and the globalists, that whole discussion that conspiracy theorists like to wave around, I view this as a serious problem. I think sometimes it's not treated seriously because it's so easy to make fun of the conspiracy theorists. You take like Alex Jones has been harping about the World Economic Forum forever, and I think he's right. I think he's poorly served when he talks about adrenochrome and dead babies and pedophiles and the Sandy Hook crisis, and these all become baubles that detract from the main message, and that is the imperative of the Enlightenment is to say that reason can govern and reason can make the good life. And maybe it can, maybe it can't. I'm not prepared to trust Schwab and the elites to tell me what I need to eat because I'm just not that interested in insects.
Well, yeah, and certainly the WEF sort of survives on this middle class complacency, both in Western Europe and in the United States, right? The historical legacy of our institutions, and I mean, recent history, but our rise to prominence, our global hegemony, militarily, technologically, and then culturally as well. I think that there is a malaise about the modern world, especially the West and here in America, that allows for these people who you refer to, Norm, who share these Enlightenment principles and who perhaps think that they are benevolent in their efforts, to make the mistake that they can unify the world in an egalitarian way. And the only means to do so is through suppression of individual sovereignty.
I think that's right. And I mean, you say complacency. I mean, hey, we all have bills to pay. I get up in the morning,
Sure. I'm
and
not saying,
yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
making a judgment about that. I'm just saying that that is the mechanism by which the WEF, or an organization similarly situated, is able to do that, and do so effectively, right? But what I don't like is that the WEF is treated as it's beyond repair or beyond redemption. So someone like this woman, Linda, whatever her name is, I forget it now, but she may be well qualified to be Twitter CEO, right? I don't know
Was it Saccawinis or Yacarino? I can't remember.
exactly, right.
Okay.
But the point is, she may be well qualified on the merits. She may be qualified to do exactly what Elon wants to do with this organization. And someone like Vivek Ramaswamy also has WEF ties. He's asked the WEF to take him off of their marketing material and all that kind of stuff. But that is the sort of stain that the WEF creates, and it definitely polarizes constituents of Twitter's constituents, if I can use that word in that manner. It definitely polarizes Twitter users, because WEF right now is a wholesale. It's a negative thing for those center right. Period.
So let's go to this oversight issue. We meant to talk about it yesterday, ran out of time, and we're running out of time again today. So we've got so Congress has oversight responsibilities over the federal government, and situating this within the separation of powers. Here's what I mean. At least on paper, the judiciary decides cases and controversies. Congress passes law. The executive branch executes those laws. In other words, it doesn't do that.
Kills them.
Notice how my voice broke into a falsetto. It executes me. No, please, not that. Anything but execution. It puts those laws into effect. Congress has a fundamental role of determining whether the manner by which the executive branch puts those laws into effect is consistent with its mandate, with what Congress has asked it to do. And Congress has, as a separate and independent branch of government, has a democratic function, a Republican function of seeing to it that the executive branch doesn't violate the law. So now we've got a highly divided Congress, and we've got a Republican oversight committee who thinks that the Biden family may have been involved in a criminal scheme, using shell companies and diverting monies to itself from foreign countries. That's the sort of thing we'd want to know. We'd want to know whether the first family is in bed with others. We certainly wanted to know it when there was a suspicion that Donald Trump.
Because it doesn't seem like all of us really want to know that, even though you and I do.
In theory, a Democratic people would want to know that, in the same way we'd want to know whether Donald Trump was in the thrall to Russians. So Congress issues a subpoena to the FBI, and it commands and a subpoena is an order. And Congress has the ability to issue such orders and says, we want some documents. And a member of the FBI refuses to provide the documents on grounds that it might disclose their manner and method of doing business, in particular with respect to confidential human sources. That to protect its sources, it's going to deny Congress its right to have oversight over to what the FBI is doing. I've been screaming about this here for a couple months now, in part because of my experience in the Proud Boys trial. I say once again to members of Congress, subpoena somebody from that trial. Get your hands on a copy of the trial transcript and demand that it include the confidential proceedings in the Proud Boys case. Notwithstanding the public's First Amendment right to know what goes on in a court, notwithstanding a defendant's Sixth Amendment right to a speedy and public trial, the court in the Proud Boys case threw reporters and the public out of the courtroom any number of times to discuss topics that it thought could not be disclosed to the public. And that topic, I can't say more about the details. I am obliged by court order not to, but I can say this much, that involved confidential human sources. And the FBI is frantic not to have we the people know what they're doing with respect to their surveillance of us. So, you can say, well, it's the Proud Boys, and then you can buy the mainstream media, they're neo-fascist, hard right, or whatever you want to call them. They don't have rights, so we'll sacrifice them. Hey. First they came for Alex Jones, then they came for for the Proud Boys, then they came for the Republicans. Nobody spoke up about all that. What are you going to do when they come for you? And I'm not being paranoid here, because the first time we had massive oversight of intelligence agencies and disclosed what they did, it was what intelligence communities were doing to the left in the form of the Church Committee. And James Risen just this week published a book on this topic called The Last Honest Man about Frank Church. I'm reading through it now. I recommend it to all of you. What is going on in the FBI? What is the unit that has collected the names and rank and serial number of these confidential human sources? Who are they surveilling? Who are they reporting to? What are they being paid? Who is making a decision that they will recruit, accept, and cultivate confidential human sources in which organizations? Why is it the FBI? Why does the FBI not want us to know who's policing us and how? And for the FBI to say to Congress, we're protecting our sources, we're not going to comply with the subpoena, creates a separation of powers crisis, because Congress can hold him in contempt, but and I guess they could say to the sergeant at arms, go lock him up. I don't think that's happened, and at least if it has, I'm unaware of it, and I'll probably be doing some research on that in idle time today, as though I have some. But they can turn to the courts and say, look, we'd like him prosecuted. And you will recall from the Steve Bannon case that contempt of Congress usually is not criminally prosecuted. Bannon blew off the proceedings altogether and invited a prosecution and got what he had coming to him by showing utter contempt of Congress. At least the FBI turned up. But it asserted something that the courts may regard as a privilege the FBI can protect. And if that's the case, then we've entered into a brave new world that I do not want to inhabit. I do not and did not and never have consented to be governed by a Stasi wearing the initial, and I'm referring to the East German Communist Party, where they had a significant number of informants wandering through society. I can't remember the exact ratio, but it was an astounding number of people. Every 16th person or something was reporting to the Stasi. I do not want to be involved in associations where I have to wonder whether what I'm doing is being reported to the FBI. I do not want Twitter to be infiltrated by FBI agents such that I have to suppress my speech and wonder whether what I say is being reported to the FBI. I repeat what Thomas Jefferson said, and even though this line was used against the Proud Boys as evidence in the Proud Boys trial, I remind you, folks, that this was a country born in rebellion. What did Jefferson say? When we the people fear the government, there is tyranny. When the government fears the people, there is liberty. The FBI stonewalling Congress on confidential human sources is a clear and present danger to liberty in the United States, and Congress needs to hit back hard on this.
I agree, and I also put the Secretary Blinken issue up here for consideration. I know this isn't something that we prepared on, Norm, but I'll share the screen from the Daily Wire. This is this morning's reporting. The title of the article says, Republican signal charging Blinken with contempt of Congress over key Afghanistan withdrawal memo. And here again, this is Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, and he has refused, I think now on 4 occasions, or at 3 occasions at least, and they've given him a 4th opportunity with a deadline of May 24th to disclose a document that he has in his possession regarding the nature and character of the Afghanistan withdrawal, which this is something that Trump in the town hall, CNN town hall a couple of nights ago, talked about pretty clearly
Now, see, the Blinken thing is even more shocking because, assuming that this subpoena issues from an intelligence committee, these are people that have their own SCIF, secure compartmentalized room where they can go and hold hearings that are impermeable to electronic interception. They can hold documents in confidence. For the executive branch to say to the legislature, who has oversight over our foreign policy expenditures, no, we're not going to give you these documents, is outrageous. And it seems to me that Congress should exact the power of the purse. And unfortunately, this might be as good as it gets. If you are not going to share information about how you're spending money we give you on behalf of the American people, then we're not going to give you any more money. And, you could say that to the FBI. If you're not going to give us any more information on CHSs, we're going to dock we're going to dock you, and it's going to be 10% of your budget for the first month, 20 for the second, and 30 for the third. And maybe we come around to Vivek Ramaswamy's point of view and says, well, who really needs the FBI anyhow? With respect to foreign policy, I mean, we've got the disaster of cutting and running and walking away from billions of dollars of armaments that have fallen into the hands of our enemies, and I think that's an issue that we very well want to know about. I want to know about it. I pay a lot of money in taxes. I've never once been able to name a missile or pick a site. Other people do that for me, and they do that for me in a representative context. If my congressional representatives want answers, I want answers. And if the Secretary of State says he's not going to give them, well, either lock them up or cut them off use the power of the purse to cut them off. But enough is enough. And so, I mean, let's round back to where we started. This animus, this level of frustration needs to be applied to Twitter. And, Elon cannot turn over the keys to this organization to someone with connections to the World Economic Forum. He cannot turn the keys to this organization over to someone who may be beholden to the FBI. He needs to take guidance from someone who's got a commitment to local community activism, who's got a commitment to freedom of speech as the means by which we, the people, discover our sense of significance in real time in relationship with one another. My best bet right now is Tucker Carlson. I don't buy everything that Tucker had to say. He was full of hot air when he talked about J6 as being nonviolent. There was violence there. I haven't watched him enough to have a full sense of who he is. But I do know this much about the man. When he spoke out about Fox and the danger of corporate conglomerate control of the media, homogenization of an opinion, he struck a nerve. And Twitter is a place that can make a difference. So Elon, think carefully about what you do, because we are depending on you to keep this forum free.
And our subscription is pending right now. We might get our verified check. Look, we might get our verified check before our next stream. So that would be something. Look, we're just trying whatever bargaining chip we've got with you, Elon. We're going to use. Maybe listen to us. Maybe come on and hang out and talk about it.
And Elon, if you're looking to the future, I can tell you, Mike's a young guy with infinite promise. He's on the way up. I'm on the way out. Give Mike Boyer a call. He's available. We can negotiate his terms.
Oh my goodness, that would be great. Look, he could wrap Twitter's entire content platform around law and legitimacy. I think that would be nice. It'd be like Twitter's constitution.
There you go. There you go.
Anyway, the last thing here, I'd call it buzzer beater. Federal judge grants temporary restraining order stopping DHS from implementing the border parole policy. So we know that Title 42 was set to expire last night at 11:59 p.m. A federal judge out of Florida granted a TRO that was brought by the state of Florida and Governor Ron DeSantis to enjoin the Department of the Department of Homeland Security, as well as ICE and other, Customs and Border Patrol, from doing what is effectively like just a frisk and let people go kind of parole policy into the U.S., which is pretty terrifying if we're thinking about the pressure building on the southern border down there.
Let me read you the opening paragraph of a story that is above the fold in the New York Times this morning. That means they think it's
above
significant.
The fold. What a quaint reference.
Quaint reference. Oh, you kids! What kids these days? Ciudad Juarez, Mexico. Millions of people are leaving their homes across Latin America in numbers not seen in decades, many of them pressing toward the United States. While migration to the southern border has always fluctuated, the pandemic and recession that followed the Latin American hit harder than almost anywhere else in the world, plunging millions into hunger, destitution, and despair. They're coming here. And,
what the hell do we have under the current leadership?
Well, I don't know what we have in general, but we have an opioid crisis and we have massive suicides of despair. We have communities coming apart at the seams and mass shooters using tools that have been present forever in our culture, that is, weapons to kill one another. And we're not asking fundamental questions about ourselves, and we're asking people who are already strained to the breaking point to set another place or two at their table. It's a big ask, and I don't know that there's a happy ending to this story. I don't have the solution, but I think we need to be talking seriously about it.
I agree, Norm. I'm out of here. I gotta go.
All right.
Gotta go. But we'll pick this up on Monday. I think we've got a lot more to talk about in these two veins. I actually like talking about this quite a lot, and I'm enjoying picking up the thread of.
Lawyer Will says, "I guess the digital equivalent would be above the scroll."
Above the thumb.
Yeah.
I like picking up the thread of contempt of Congress, just because of what we talked about with respect to the House Select Committee on investigating J6 and Alex Jones. We talked a lot about that months ago with respect to the attorney-client relationship and privilege, and what you could be compelled to do, Norm, in the face of a congressional subpoena in those respects. So I think that this is a legal issue that is about to blossom into the public consciousness in a way. And I also like that our viewers will be that much more competent as compared to those.
You will be ahead of the curve. We're promising you that.
Yeah, that's right. And law school is graded on a curve, by the way, so that's not insignificant. NBA playoffs, just to end here, the Celtics evened it up last night with the Sixers. So Sunday will be a kind of a vintage game, right? The Celtics and the Sixers.
So here's what you do on Mother's Day. Mom, go make me something. I got to watch the ball game. And she's like, it's my day. And yeah, it is. And I'm asking you to do the thing you like most. Get me something to eat, you know?
Don't do your mother that way, Norm kids.
My mom's dead, so it's easy for me to joke.
I love you. Look, you've got your timing is great, and also, you know what's coming up really quickly here, Norm. Boom.
May 18th, Mohegan Sun, Norwich, Connecticut. Be there 10 o'clock at the Comics Club at Mohegan Sun. I will introduce you to Ned the Coffin Salesman, among other things. You'll have a good time. It's a $10 entry fee. There are 6 or 7 comics on stage. We don't get much time each, so come out, show your support, show your love. I'd love to see you.
Sounds good. Norm, enjoy your travels this weekend. I know you're going to go see a law school graduation for a promising young attorney who will...
At Duke. I'm going to be in North Carolina. I hope I survive. Do I need to get shots to go down there?
Mm-mm.
All right, good.
Not a one. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Overcast, etc. for the audio-only stuff. I promised one of my friends this morning that the audio of this morning will be up by 9 a.m. because he's on a plane and isn't able to catch us live today. Please also give a thumbs up on this video, whether you're coming to us via Rumble, via Twitter Live, or via YouTube Live. Also, please consider joining us on Locals. Like we referenced yesterday, we have a couple of ideas that we are bringing into fruition. We may have some more long-form stuff, 300 to 500 words to begin offering up in short order. And we're going to endeavor to put that stuff behind a paywall. But no matter what, please just tell someone about Law and Legitimacy. Norm and I are having a lot of fun doing this, and you'll see a blue check on Twitter come Monday.
Woo! All right. Have a good weekend, everyone. Take care, Mike.
See you later, Norm. Have a good weekend.